Hey everyone, Alan from GameGrooves here, and I'm coming at you with a state of GameGrooves for 2023. So essentially, I want to take a few minutes to talk about what GameGrooves is going to be doing in 2023 and talk a little bit about what we've done in the past. So GameGrooves has existed in some form since 2019, let's say mid-2019. I think the summer of 2019 is officially when the branding switched from Gazette for the website to GameGrooves. And then the record label side of things, which I think a lot of people are familiar with, started technically May 2020 with our first album that we released with Pixel Mixer. So in that time, I don't know exactly how many articles we've put up, but we've put up a lot of articles. We've put up over 20 video game music podcasts with myself as a host, with Peter Gillette as a host, and most recently with Ro Panaganti as the host. And I've really been enjoying those. I actually just took a long trip up to New York, had a 7-hour drive, so those podcasts really helped me as I was coming home. And I really just love to learn more about the community and the artists that make up the community. And we're still working on GameGrooves Studio material, which will be coming out soon, sometime early this year. And with GameGrooves Music, we've put out 23 albums, which is pretty impressive, I think. That's 23 albums in 2.5 years. And I believe it's 8 charity albums, and then the rest are non-charity. So 8 charity albums and 15 non-charity albums, right? So for those of you who are mainly interested in the music, I'll cut straight to the chase and talk a little bit about the music, right? We have 6 produced albums this year. What that means is GameGrooves, when I say GameGrooves produces the album, that means that I'm paying for the mixing, the mastering, the artwork. Well, I shouldn't say mixing. Sometimes the mixing, all the time the mastering, all the time the artwork, and promotion and anything else like that. Mainly because there are some albums where artists mix the tracks themselves, and then there are some albums where we hire a mixing engineer. So 6 albums will be coming out this year, 5 of which will be non-charity, one of which will be charity. Tongue twister. Anyways, so that's hopefully enough albums. You know, I made a conscious effort this year really not to overdo it. For the past 2 years, I have started up the year, been really excited to share music with the world, video game cover music, and then I burn out in April. It's like clockwork at this point. So I really want to avoid that, and my biggest way of doing that is to make sure that I don't overcommit with albums, right? Because on paper, you know, it doesn't take that much effort to get these done now that I've done so many of them, but on the other hand, it's a lot of plates to juggle, that kind of thing. So I'm sticking with 6 albums. That does not mean there won't be more music coming out that GameGrooves helps to produce, because you may or may not know, but GameGrooves has kind of a label of sorts called GameGrooves Alliance, where essentially I help VGM cover artists distribute music through SoundDrop and possibly in the future Bandcamp. We'll see. That may be something I do in the future as well. And the idea being that, you know, an artist comes to me and says, I have this project I'm really excited about. Can you help me release it and promote it and all that stuff? And I say, of course, you know, and that's GameGrooves Alliance. So we have more music that will be coming through GameGrooves Alliance this year, especially since I'm limiting myself to only 6 albums. We have a really exciting event coming up, which I can't talk about quite yet, which is something GameGrooves has never done before. I will say this. It will be a playlist of covers that will be happening in the summer of 2023. And so artists are signing up which covers they'll be making, and there's a theme, which I don't want to reveal yet. And so instead of one album with 10 tracks or 15 tracks, we're looking at a playlist with maybe 30 to 40 to maybe even more tracks. So it's basically more music for you, and less of a headache for me because I can just coordinate the release. So that's really what's going on with the music. Now, I've hinted and talked about our next album coming out several times, and I'll just say it now. The next album will be coming out in February, called Hail to the Night, a metalcore tribute to Shovel Knight. So for those of you who like metalcore and those of you that like Shovel Knight, this is your album, right? Even if you're not a huge fan of metalcore, but you like Shovel Knight, I would say give it a try because, these are some really great arrangements from some great artists. And I love that soundtrack. It has such a classic vibe to it. So I thought that metalcore would be a good match for it. And it turns out it was. And then in April, we've got another album releasing called Scavalanche or Scavalanche. I haven't really decided how to pronounce it. A ska tribute to Final Fantasy VII. And again, I've hinted at this album and talked about it, but I'm saying it now so that anyone that hasn't heard about it knows. This album will be all ska arrangements of Final Fantasy VII. And what's more, I am partnering with a ska label called Ska Punk International. And they're going to help me with the press and promotion, but also, most interestingly, or thing I'm most excited for, physical releases. That's right. GameGrooves is going to have its first physical release in April of 2023. And we're looking at doing CDs and cassettes for this album. So definitely keep an eye out for that, because if that goes well, I might start releasing, older albums on CDs and cassette if there's an interest. Because guess what? This stuff is not cheap. It's not, prohibitively expensive, but as I said in my last video, this is a year where I'm really trying to make GameGrooves sustainable. That's a word I'd rather use than profitable, because obviously, the goal is to make it profitable so that I can continue doing these albums. And that's why I prefer sustainable, because the idea is I want to keep making albums. I want to keep doing these cool projects with my friends. And I'm less concerned about what is going to make me the most profit and more concerned with how do I continue to make GameGrooves a fun and interesting place and release albums that make people excited, that where people are like, oh, that sounds interesting. Like a perfect example would be Mario Kart. That, to me, that idea, when you tell somebody ska Mario Kart, it hopefully is like a, enticing thought. So or Encuentro de Sangre more recently, an album that we really strove to make cohesive as possible by hiring a mixing engineer. Spoilers, we'll have another album like that this year. I won't say what because it's way too early, but we are working on another album where we have a select number of arrangers and we have one mixing engineer and one mastering engineer. So hopefully that will be just as exciting as Encuentro de Sangre. And I'll talk about the third album that will be coming out this year that was just announced within the GameGrooves ranks. We are doing I won't say what game or series or theme we're doing yet, but we are doing a sequel of sorts to Rainbow Roads, which was our LGBTQ plus charity album, which released, I believe, in 2021. Yes, January of 21. So we've started work on that, and that will hopefully be coming out on June 26th, right? Which is an important day for a lot of people. It's also important for me, because it's my birthday, but anyways, June 26th, we hopefully will be seeing the sequel to Rainbow Roads. And that's all I really want to talk about with music, because that's hopefully enough. That's 3 albums I'm talking about, plus a big playlist, plus there might be something else that I can tease, but I won't just yet. I'll just say keep your eyes peeled for March Caprice, if you're a Kingdom Hearts fan, even if you're not. Pay attention to March Caprice. So there's a lot of music coming out, but I'm making sure, once again, that I don't burn myself out by tackling too many projects, because trust me, there's so many things I want to do. It's just a matter of like, what is the right project for this time? So, and then, like I said, everything this year that I'm doing, I'm gearing towards how do I make GameGrooves sustainable, right? How do we make sure that we're recouping our costs, let's say. Moving on. So if you're only interested in GameGrooves music, you can tune out. I may talk a little bit about it, but that's the majority of the news about GameGrooves music. If you are a video game cover artist and you're thinking, how do I release an album? How do I go through the headache of licensing? Well, I've got good news. You may or may not realize that I hosted a panel at MagFest about how to create a VGM cover album. It ended up being much more about how to license a video game cover album, but that's still very important information for a lot of people. So over the next week or two, I will be compiling those PowerPoint slides or Google Slides into a cohesive document. And this year I'll really be working on creating additional content to help people out with releasing or producing and releasing a VGM cover album. In that same vein, I am going to tease something I will probably announce within the next couple of days, another album contest, because guess what? We have at least 10 or 11 albums from our GameGrooves album challenge that have yet to release. But guess what? It's a new year, which means there's got to be a new challenge. So I won't announce details here, but just be warned, it's coming. So if you missed the last one, or if you had to drop off for any reason, keep it in mind, okay? So that's more to do with the website. Plenty of great articles that are coming out, plenty of great interviews. I'm really going to work hard this year to make sure that the website gets as much love and attention as the music side of things. I'm only one person. I have a full-time job. I have 2 kids and a cat and 2 gerbils and a wife. And so I only have so much time. So it's always a balancing act, and I'm going to do better. I promise I will. No trying, just doing. Do or do not, right? I will do a better job of making sure that community content is going on the website that's helpful for fans and helpful for VGM cover artists. I mentioned to that end Studio, which was a project that we crowdfunded, and my good friend Peter Gillette of GHDY Productions is hard at work on some of that material, which we'll be releasing this year, hopefully early this year, and we'll have more news on that. And that is all stuff that will hopefully be helpful for, aspiring musicians and videographers and just anyone that's a creative type. And then that's mainly, okay. So one big thing I wanted to announce in regards to the website, a good friend of mine, I'm going to shout him out right now, Lowlander, aka, he used to run Burnt Toast Records, but Lowlander is what he's most commonly known by. He purchased a domain for me. For years, I've been using game-grooves.com because I couldn't purchase gamegrooves.com, right? And after MagFest, I think the day after MagFest, he contacted me and told me, hey, I have a present for you, and then shared a screenshot of that domain, which I can't tell you how much that meant to me, because I've tried in the past to buy it and I've been unable to. So just from a branding, marketing perspective, whatever you want to call it, it's so much nicer to just have gamegrooves.com, right? Rather than game-grooves. So hopefully I'll be able to figure out how to redirect the old link to the new one and incorporate that so that will be the primary website going forward. Either way, very exciting stuff for me. Most of you probably won't care. I really care. It was a great gift. And lastly, we'll talk about Uncovered, which again, Ro Panaganti is hosting that. If you have tips or suggestions or topics that you want him to cover, you can always reach out to him on Twitter or on our Discord. He's very active on our Discord. And I don't really have much else to say other than I've immensely enjoyed all the podcasts that Ro has produced up to this point. And I do agree that we need a host nanny at some point with myself, Peter, and Ro talking about just video game music and life in general. I think that would be fun. But he has done a killer job finding artists in the VGM community to talk to and to get to know. And so if you're interested, you can reach out to him, but ultimately I'll leave it up to him as far as guests go, who he wants to talk to. So that's really all the major news for GameGrooves in 2023. This video is getting long, but I do have a final message which I want to share. For those of you that really care, like the diehard GameGrooves people, I am I am overwhelmed by the joy and emotion I felt at MagFest. And I think you remember the last video I produced, I was feeling a bit down and a little bit lost. Like I wasn't sure what I was doing, and I was second guessing myself a lot. And a lot of that is just gone away, because going to MagFest, meeting so many of the people that I've become friends with in the past couple years, and seeing old friends and realizing just how unique, special, and amazing this community is. You know, I keep saying it, and many others have said it, but it's true. When you look at how many people there are and how the VGM cover community is growing, it's really exciting stuff. So it's just it's an annual reminder of why I spend all this time and money doing something that really is, you know, it's on one hand it's just for fun, but on the other hand it's seriously impressive stuff that you all managed to come up with. And I love watching people's journeys as they, you know, whether they start out with arrangements and then work towards cover music, or whether they start out with arrangements and then go on some other path. It's a privilege to work with some of you all, to watch you all grow and become these amazing artists. And yeah, it's why I do this. So I'm feeling a lot better, is all I wanted to say. And this is going to be a good year. And like I said, my goal is to make GameGrooves sustainable this year. And again, that means we've got to turn a profit, to use a marketing term, which is fine. So if you are a GameGrooves fan or supporter, and if you support what we do, really any level of support is appreciated. But now this year would be the year to really tell your friends about it, or to pay for an album on Bandcamp. Speaking of which, all our albums are 50% off right now. Or if you really want to go that extra mile, look at our Patreon and choose a tier that works for you. You know, I don't want anybody going broke supporting GameGrooves. There's plenty of other more important things in the world you can support. But if you do, just know you have my eternal thanks. And every time I start to feel a little down, I remember, oh yeah, this is why I do this. Because there's people that truly appreciate it, and there's, you know, so many amazing artists, and we all want to pay tribute to these soundtracks that have changed our lives, or really just are fun to listen to. So I am probably at the point where I'm rambling, but I have a lot of that I wanted to say. And finally, just thank you. You know, I can't believe it's almost been 4 years that I've been doing this, because it really doesn't feel like that. I'm sure a lot of that has to do with COVID, but you know, I don't want to dwell on the past too much, and I like to look ahead. But at the same time, it's good, you know, sometimes to reflect and say, you know what, even if you just stopped everything right now and said, okay, I'm done, you still, with the help of many, many people, GameGrooves has managed to accomplish a lot. And I'm really proud of the community that we've created. And I hope that it continues to grow, and I hope that it continues to be that it becomes sustainable this year. And I hope to continue doing this for another 4 or 5 years, you know, or 20 years if we're looking at MagFest numbers. I honestly think this cover community will just continue to grow. And I'm so excited to see where it goes from here, because it's changed a lot just since I've been involved, which was 7 years ago, 8 years ago, whatever. So thank you from the bottom of my heart, and thank you everyone that has, you know, supported GameGrooves or worked with me or put up with me in the case of my wife and kids and pets. Yeah, 2023 is going to be a great year. Believe it.